Senator, great to have you back with us today.
Todd, thanks for having me. Always great to be with you.
Wow, a lot to unravel today, and we learned a lot. Not from so much from Dorsey and Zuckerberg, but from some of your colleagues up there on Capitol Hill. Blumenthal wants to outright just start banning conservatives in wholesale.
Yeah, it really is a dangerous thing. We're seeing more and more. Number one, big tech getting increasingly aggressive, censoring speech, silencing those with whom they disagree. And number two, Senate Democrats urging them to do even more. That may have been the most dismaying part of the hearing today, was seeing one Democratic senator after the other asking these big tech billionaires, can't you just silence everybody we disagree with? And then that's really a dangerous and I think a totalitarian instinct.
Senator, where do we stand now with this effort to remove whatever kinds of special privileges and protections that they may have?
Well, I think there is growing momentum to revisit what's called Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. That is the particular section of law that Congress passed decades ago that gives big tech an immunity from liability. They can't be sued for the content on their sites. And it is essentially corporate welfare. It's essentially a subsidy that Congress voted to give big tech. And at the time Congress did so, it was 20 years ago, it was a time when technology was just getting started. The Internet was a nascent world, and Congress wanted to create an environment where it could grow and flourish. These are now some of the biggest and richest and most powerful companies on the face of the planet. And when Congress passed Section 230, the Internet was believed to be, and in fact part of the statute explicitly says that it was a neutral public forum. In other words, it was a free and fair, open marketplace of ideas. Today, big tech ain't that. They are putting a thumb on the scale. They are deeply biased, and they're not even pretending anymore, and there's no reason they should get that special immunity from liability.
You know, Senator, this is where I get really troubled looking down the road. You have Fox News Channel in the throes of Lord knows what, going through some sort of a midlife identity crisis. And at that point, if Fox, starts to, go center left, where are conservatives going to go to get their news, go to get their information? And again, I think it's been somewhat balkanized. But then you've got Facebook and Twitter shutting down conservative content. And honestly, I think people go back to the roots, which would be talk radio, in the early days of Rush Limbaugh. But then if you've got Democrats controlling the Senate and the House of Representatives, they could very easily bring back that fairness doctrine and shut down conservative talk radio, too.
Well, I think that's right, and you're seeing Democrats wanting to use government power, basically treating big tech as the communication arm of the Democratic Party. I think we need to be collectively finding ways to get around the gatekeepers, get around the media gatekeepers, and to the extent we can, get around the big tech gatekeepers. It's one of the reasons why this year I launched a podcast called Verdict with Ted Cruz that we put out every week. It rose to become the number one ranked podcast in the world. And so that has been one vehicle of having in-depth conversations where we've gotten over 20 million downloads of the podcast. It's also a reason, Todd, that about 6 weeks ago I released my new book, One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. Because that book, likewise, big tech can't shut it down, the media can't shut it down, and in fact, the book, One Vote Away, has been on the New York Times bestseller list 5 consecutive weeks. It became the number one bestseller in the country on Amazon. And so I'm looking for tools to communicate with people directly and to arm the citizenry with information. Both the podcast and the book are designed to help you, the listener, be an informed American, an engaged American when you're sitting down at Thanksgiving dinner with your family, when you're visiting with your neighbors, to know with the book One Vote Away, to know what's at stake at the Supreme Court, to understand what's going on with free speech and religious liberty and the Second Amendment. And I think getting information to empower the citizenry has never been more important than right now.
And then when you look at the news coming out today, Breitbart reporting that Joe Biden has appointed an anti-free speech advocate for his transition team, Richard Stingel, who literally wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post saying America needs a hate speech law. Senator, the question I'm afraid to ask, but will be asked, who gets to decide what is and is not hate speech in America?
So for the left, they want to define as, quote, hate speech anything they disagree with. We see this on college campuses where conservative views are silenced, where Christian views are silenced, where preaching the Bible is considered unacceptable. And we're seeing this threat. We're seeing this threat to pastors who are being silenced. I remember several years ago, my hometown of Houston, the mayor of Houston subpoenaed 5 pastors in the city of Houston demanding their sermon notes because they had preached on sexuality and homosexuality.
Yeah, I remember that story very well, and these are real, clear and present dangers to our freedoms under the Constitution. On the Liberty University Newsmaker line, Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, that's why this election in Georgia is so vitally important. We've got to protect the Senate, and we've got to salvage the Republican majority.
The Georgia special election on January 5th, 2 Senate seats, is almost indescribably important. The difference in terms of the country. Right now, Republicans have a 50 to 48 lead in the Senate. If we win both of those Senate seats, we'll have a Republican majority. If we lose both of those Senate seats and Joe Biden holds on to the presidency, Chuck Schumer will become the majority leader. And let me tell you what happens if the Democrats win these Georgia Senate seats. They will pass a massive tax increase. They will pass the Green New Deal, destroying millions of jobs across this country. They will grant amnesty to tens of millions of people here illegally and try to make them U.S. citizens to lock in Democratic control of government. They will admit 2 new states to the Union, D.C., the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico, because they believe that will give them 4 new Democratic senators. And Todd, mark my words, if the Democrats win in Georgia, they will pack the United States Supreme Court. They will increase the number of justices from 9 justices to 13, which means they will immediately put 4 left-wing judicial activists on the court who will in turn vote to take away your rights to free speech and my rights to free speech, who will vote to take away our constitutional rights to religious liberty, and who will vote to effectively erase the Second Amendment from the Bill of Rights. All of that is at stake in the state of Georgia.
Oh, and I have no doubt they'll do it too, Senator. Yep. No doubt at all. Real quick here, what do you think? What is your gut telling you on the presidential race? You think the president's going to be able to pull this out?
Well, I hope so. I certainly am praying for that outcome. I think we need to let the legal process play out. We need to let these recounts, let this contest litigation play out, and it needs to be decided according to law and under the Constitution. It is a difficult path. The president has to win not just in one state, but in multiple states to reverse the ballot total. So it's going to take it really is incumbent on the Trump legal team right now to develop and present credible, serious evidence in court. It can't just be things that are tweeted online or allegations that are said generically. It has to be evidence that the Trump legal team puts on in court to demonstrate voter fraud. Our objective should be count every legal vote and don't count those votes that were illegally cast. And I think it's important that we insist that the rule of law be followed here.
Well said. All right, Senator, we're going to have to leave it there. We appreciate the incredible work you're doing to fight censorship up on Capitol Hill. One Vote Away is the book by Ted Cruz. We've got a link to that on our live show blog. Senator, always good hearing from you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Todd.